Hello and welcome. Tonight, only INEC has the responsibility to deal with the electoral infractions perpetrated during the Adamawa governorship election. Federal government says the REC is an employee of the electoral umpire. Governor Fintiri talks tough, vows to ensure prosecution of suspended resident electoral commissioner for Adamawa State, Hudu Yunusa Ari, for his action during the governorship election in the state. 4 people, including 2 personnel of the Nigeria Immigration Service and a lecturer with the Federal University, were killed in separate attacks in Taraba State.
On business news tonight, Central Bank of Nigeria says currency in circulation has jumped by 71% in 1 month to 1.6 trillion naira in the month of March.
And on sports news tonight, one of the floodlights poles at the National Assembly National Stadium, Surulere, Lagos, collapsed this morning due to heavy rain.
And from Abuja, 2 people killed and 4 others rescued after a building under construction collapsed in the Wuse 2 area of the nation's capital territory.
And in international news from London, Fox News has settled a defamation lawsuit from the voting machine company Dominion over its reporting of the 2020 presidential election.
The federal government has broken its silence on the action of the suspended resident electoral commissioner for Adamawa State, Malam Nuhu Hudu Yunusa Ari, after he allegedly announced the result of the state's governorship election. Now, the Minister of Information and Culture, Mr. Lai Mohammed, says that the responsibility to deal with the premature announcement rests solely with the Independent National Electoral Commission. But Mr. Mohammed told State House correspondents after the Federal Executive Council meeting today that the president has never intervened in the way INEC conducts its elections. Our State House correspondent Gloria Mizuke has more.
The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, again sits in for the President, who is now back into the country as he chairs the Federal Executive Council meeting at the Chamber. The briefing after the meeting provides an opportunity for the media to clear the air on the president's position on the Adamawa State election debacle, especially the action of the state's resident electoral commissioner.
I don't think this government has ever intervened in the way the Independent National Electoral Commission, conducts its elections. So there was no need for us to intervene. It was entirely an INEC matter, and INEC handled it. The chairman of INEC is in charge of all employees of INEC and is handling it. So what do you want the government to do? And if the president needs to take action, he will so do.
Again, the information minister explains why he accused the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, of committing treason. He states that if his running mate had called for insurrection and he did not react, he would equally be guilty as charged.
Yes, I went to the US to balance the skewed reports about the just concluded elections. I said, Mr. Peter Obi has every right to seek redress in court, like Labour Party, but nobody has the right to call for insurrection or to threaten to say that if the president-elect is sworn in, that will be the end of democracy. And that was precisely what the running mate of Mr. Peter Obi said. For anybody to say that if a duly elected president in Nigeria is sworn in, that will be the end of democracy. It's treason. For anybody to say if you swear in a duly elected president, you are swearing the military. It's treason.
Meanwhile, the Federal Executive Council gave a 3.44 billion naira approval for the procurement of surveillance caravan aircraft by the Nigeria Customs Service, primarily to combat smuggling and intelligence gathering across the nation's borders. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Well, every action has its consequence. This appears to reflect the position of Governor Omari Fintiri, who has vowed to ensure that the suspended resident electoral commissioner is prosecuted and jailed. Governor Fintiri made this declaration after receiving his certificate of return alongside his deputy from the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Abuja today. He maintains that the actions of Mr. Ari in illegally declaring the results of last week's governorship poll in the state is a rape of democracy, which almost plunged his state into total anarchy. Our correspondent Victor Matthias reports.
Filled to the brim is INEC headquarters' conference hall with supporters, families and friends of senators and members-elect whose elections were concluded on April the 15th, 2023. Prominent among them are former Sokoto State Governor, Senator Aliu Wamako, and Majority Leader in the House of Representatives, Mr. Ado Dogua. Seated and settled, INEC National Commissioners present are invited to make the presentation. The lawmakers give INEC a pat on the back for the conduct of the supplementary elections.
I want to say without any fear of contradiction that INEC under Mahmoud Yakubu, I think he's doing a wonderful job.
There were some anomalies, but INEC, being a very free, fair, mentally alert, and a well-organized institution, justice and the will of the people finally came out.
Moments after, the motorcade of Governor Amadu Fintiri of Adamawa State drives into the Commission's headquarters, accompanied by his deputy, Professor Kalita Wafarauta, and their spouses. They are also here to receive their certificates of return. This way, sir. Done and dusted, the governor thanks Nigerians for their support and promises to prosecute the suspended state resident electoral commissioner, Mr. Hudu Ari, and the heads of security agencies that flanked him when he prematurely declared the result of supplementary election in the state.
Hudu should be prosecuted, and I believe I'm the right person to prosecute him because he committed the offense in Adamawa, and I'm sure I'm going to prosecute him, along with the security chiefs that committed those offenses with him, because they ought to have been the one to protect democracy. But if the police and the security agencies will be the one to connive with INEC officials to scuttle our democracy, I think it's unfortunate.
The ceremony today brings to an end a process that was highly and keenly contested, an exercise that was long awaited. In the coming days, the Election Petition Tribunal will begin sitting, and aggrieved parties are expected to lay their complaints. Victor Matthias, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the president-elect, Senator Bola Tinubu, has asked the police to investigate the controversy and confusion that trailed the Adamawa supplementary governorship election. Mr. Tinubu, in his statement today, called for a thorough investigation of all that transpired in the election. According to him, I note the matter of Adamawa supplementary governorship election, and I urge police authorities to fully investigate all that transpired in the election, given the attendant controversy. In every democratic contest, there has to be one winner. I call on those aggrieved to pursue legitimate means of addressing their grievances. The former governor of Lagos State says the supplementary polls have now brought the 2023 elections to a final fitting conclusion, adding that the largely peaceful atmosphere that pervaded the supplementary election on Saturday is a further testimony that Nigerians have accepted democratic norms and have unalloyed faith in the electoral process. Well, away from the Adamawa election outcome, Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo is asking the political elite to tackle prejudices emanating from ethnic and religious biases in a diverse democracy like Nigeria. The Vice President was addressing Senior Executive Course 45 at the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies in Kuru, Plateau State, at the Maiden Policymaking and Good Governance in Nigeria lecture series. Speaking on creating a homeland for all and nation building in a diverse democracy, Professor Shibajo warned against weaponizing ethnic profiling in the country.
These elections witnessed the exploitation by political actors of the fears and anxieties of people about so-called outsiders. Any attempt to deny people the right to vote in any locality on the basis that they do not belong in that place is condemnable in the strongest terms. Social integration is one of the highest ideals of our Constitution, which guarantees every citizen the right to traverse the length and breadth of this country without hindrance and to settle in any place of their choice. It affirms the right of all Nigerians not to be discriminated against on the basis of their identities. Above all, it holds up integration as a priority. The framers of our Constitution did not intend to create an apartheid system that distinguishes between natives and settlers, nor did they in fact create one. They sought to create a civic nation. So it is possible to conquer ethnic or religious prejudice and build a unified nation. And I think that in itself should be a rhetorical question. Can we truly conquer ethnic prejudices, religious prejudices, and build a unified nation? I think we can. But it's a journey, it's not an event.
Vice President Professor Shibajo. And to the National Assembly, where the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee investigating the alleged loss of $24 billion from illegal sale of 48 million barrels of crude oil is threatening to summon the Attorney General, the Minister of Finance and the Central Bank of Nigeria over inflows from recoveries from whistleblowers and expenditures. The committee chairman, Mr. Mark Biller, stated this after the invited parties failed to honor the committee's invitation, which was extended to them last week. According to him, documents from the Accountant General show payments to and recoveries from whistleblowers, but no evidence to indicate that those monies were expended in accordance with the relevant laws.
We have had media reports by the federal government indicating that millions of dollars were recovered through whistleblower revelations on behalf of the country. But we as a parliament have not seen where those monies were routed through the constitutional appropriation process before they were expended. There's an incident that was revealed by a whistleblower who made a formal report to the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit about $200 million paid into two companies' accounts, Biz Plus and GSCL, allegedly for consultancy services, which allegedly were approved, they say, by the Attorney General's office on the approval of Mr. President. We will make this further appeal to the Honorable Minister of Finance and Attorney General of the Federation and all others who have not responded or have not honored the committee's invitation to do so in the national interest, and in the event that they fail to do so, we will be constrained to proceed to summons and other statutory powers that the committee and the National Assembly can exercise in this regard. And the CBN as well will be required to provide information that has been provided by these whistleblowers about such substantial amounts of money that were paid supposedly and allegedly for consultancy services.
In part two, after the break, building under construction collapses in the Wuse 2 area of Abuja, killing 2 people. We have that in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the News at 10 live from Channels Television. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Only INEC has the responsibility to deal with the electoral infractions perpetrated during the Adamawa governorship election, federal government declares, says the REC is an employee of the electoral umpire. Governor Madu Finteri of Adamawa State talks tough, vows to ensure the prosecution of suspended resident electoral commissioner Hudu Yunusa Ari for his actions during the state governorship election. 4 people, including 2 personnel of the Nigeria Immigration Service and a lecturer with the Federal University, will carry killed in separate attacks in Taraba State. And Fox News settles $787 million defamation lawsuit from voting machine company Dominion over its reporting of the U.S. 2020 presidential election. And to Taraba State, where 4 people, including 2 immigration officers and a lecturer, have been reported killed in separate attacks in Taraba State. The 2 immigration officers were said to have been killed by suspected bandits on the Takum-Usa local government area link road axis of the state. Police spokesperson in the state, Abdullahi Usman, told Channels Television that the officers were not only shot but had machete cuts on their bodies. According to him, the police is not related, the killing rather, is not related to the ongoing herder-farmer crisis in the local government area. Meanwhile, a lecturer with the Federal University Wukari is also said to have been killed in his farmland by members of a suspected militia group, triggering a reprisal by irate youth of Wukari, which resulted in the death of a businessman.
2 immigration officers were shot dead and also had some matches caught on them. And their motorcycle was also abandoned by the site. So it wasn't at the checkpoint, as you said, but they were moving from Takum back to their own checkpoint, which is situated at the USA. When check on their names, it was later discovered that one Inspector Adike Austin and then Inspector Oza James of the Immigration Department attached to USA checkpoint. It was unfortunate. The corpses were removed to the hospital for autopsy. Presently, investigation is ongoing. I could remember vividly from Takum to USA, we had a very thick forest in between where this incident took place. So I believe it could be related to either banditry or robbery, but it shouldn't be the Kuteb farmers' herders crisis.
To another tragic accident involving a commercial bus driver who was today killed following an accident involving his bus and rapid transport bus on the Fako Bridge in the Ogudu area of Lagos, resulting in the vehicles going up in flames. The circumstances that led to the accident was not clear, but the accident made worse the gridlock on the road as the burnt vehicles were being cleared off the expressway. The accident occurred amid a downpour in the Lagos metropolis today.
Lagos, a city synonymous and notorious for traffic, and this is yet another occurrence. This gridlock in the early hours of the day is the result of a heavy downpour and an accident involving a BRT bus and a commercial vehicle as both go up in flames on Ifako Bridge in Ogudu area, outward the 3rd mainland bridge. The casualty is the commercial bus driver who died from the incident, according to the Lagos State Fire and Rescue Service. Meanwhile, it's about the heaviest rain since the beginning of the rainy season, as evident here at the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, causing standstill. These may be warning signs for government intervention as the rainy season sets in.
We head over to Abuja for more stories. Linda is standing by. Hi, Linda.
Hello, Millicent. In another tragic incident, this time here in Abuja, 2 persons have died when a part of a building collapsed today in the nation's capital. The FCT Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, also reported that 4 persons were rescued and are receiving treatment. The Director General of FEMA, Mr. Abbas Idris, told our correspondent that the building located in the Wuse 2 area of Abuja was still in the early stage of construction when it collapsed.
Operatives from the National Emergency Management Agency, the Fire Service, and Federal Capital Territory Administration are here on a rescue mission following the collapse of a part of a building on Adetokunbo Ademola Street in Wuse 2 area of the nation's capital.
The 2 people that was badly affected, that was when they were brought out when the excavator actually came and was excavating the ground, because the fence actually fell on them. Those ones that survived, the fence did not cut up with them. They were under the ground.
The joint rescue effort by the relevant agencies leads to some success.
Between 10 and 11, we received a distress call that a wall fell on some artisans who were working, and about 6 of them. And so they were trapped. So we have to draft our rescue operations to be here. And they were able to bring out 6 number of people, and 2 were fatally injured, while 4 are in the hospital receiving treatment.
The incident occurred during an excavation, and the authorities explain how efforts to stop work on this site proved abortive.
It's really unfortunate that we had this incident, but the authority concerned, that is in this context, the Department of Development Control, has done all that is within its power by even stopping the work here. But then the developer, maybe using his engineer, didn't heed the warning, and then this incident happened. Because my colleagues here, who is responsible for monitoring development on the site, actually confirmed to me that he had directed the work to be stopped until necessary things are done. Because when you are doing this kind of activity, you need to shore it up, retain the wall, so that there will be no collapse. And that's what exactly happened. So we asked him to stop. He didn't. In fact, we didn't know that the work had resumed until when this thing happened this morning.
While the relevant agencies have concluded rescue operations, the National Emergency Management Agency plans to investigate the factors responsible for this incident.
In other stories, the Benue state government is asking those living on the banks of River Benue to avoid using fresh water directly from the river until the result of an investigation into the reported pollution and discharge of waste from a pure biotech company is out. Governor Samuel Ortom gave the directive through the Commissioner for Water Resources and Environment, Mr. Godwin Oyiwona, who is the chairman of the investigative committee, in the wake of evidence indicating harmful waste disposal by the company into the river.
Early this week, an amateur video leak exposing cassava waste discharge into the River Benue by allegedly a Chinese Nigerian company, Pure Biotech ethanol plants located along the Makedi-Boko Road. According to the Benue Hike and Conservation Group, fishes are being poisoned, while others that had contact with the polluted water are infected with waterborne illness. Governor Samuel Ortom quickly issued a statement and followed up with the inauguration of an investigative panel.
I cannot sit here and fold my hands and allow the health of Benue people to be in danger as governor. And so I would have taken outright steps to close the company. I just heard this yesterday, but I want this team that I'm putting together here to do an investigation. The immediate investigation should be done between today and tomorrow.
The panel, led by the State Commissioner for Water Resources and Environment, that is mandated to investigate alleged practice, have visited the management of the company. But the director of Pure Biotech ethanol plant says they are not responsible for the effluent into the river.
Everything is being recycled. Like I stated, is the best in the country. So I can read my test to tell you that if you bring any expert into this factory. The expert will tell you that what we have done is the world standard. So it was at a test running stage, and as we speak, everything is in place. So if anybody is saying that what was going on was killing fish or anything, I don't think it was as a result of what we sent out, because what we sent out was treated.
The committee members then visited the point of waste discharge into the water body. Members of the host community lament direct impact of the effluent into the water bodies and ecosystem, but the state government promises a full-scale investigation into the water pollution.
We told them for now, they should stop fetching water, drinking water from this spot until we carry out the analysis. So we are educating the Benue people for now, especially those living around this factory, not to drink the water yet, until we come up with the result.
We carry catch fish. If you hold a dead fish from the river, go and eat it, you will have problems from your breathing. So when we complain to them, they say there's nothing. We even make a way that everybody will hear. From that side at least, hot one to come out. If you do mistake, choke your leg there, you go wound from your leg. Other people do mistake, drink this water, then get problem.
Water samples have been collected from different points from the company down to the River Benue to test the veracity of the claims so that the Benue State government can sanction anyone responsible for the act.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Central Bank of Nigeria says currency in circulation has jumped by 71% in 1 month to 1.6 trillion naira in March. That's on Business News. Join us again. You're welcome back to the news at 10, coming to you live from Abuja. Afe Babalola University, Ado-Ekiti, Abward, has again registered another critical milestone, this time in the area of medical research, as the institution continues to work on perfecting its treatment for COVID-19. According to the management of the institution, the Abward virucidine liquid for COVID-19, which medical experts say has shown promising signs, has gone through proof of concept study and other necessary thorough processes meant to ascertain safety and tolerability of the herbal solution. Our correspondent Dare Idowu reports.
The search for homegrown solution has brought these researchers, scholars and scientists together at the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research in Lagos. Exploratory, preclinical, clinical development, regulatory review and approval, manufacturing and quality control. These stages summarize the journey to producing a scientifically approved drug.
It can stand anywhere in the world.
Having gone through the preclinical processes, the Abward virucidine liquid is at the stage of clinical development, which is to ascertain the efficacy, safety, and appropriate dosage using a larger sample size.
We need to begin to develop our own in-house alternative therapy. One, because a lot of grassroots people, the first point of call when they are sick is the herbal practitioners before they even go to the primary care, before they go to secondary or tertiary care. So this level of treatment in our health system needs to be brought forward and developed beyond what we have now.
We have African surgeons, and they were doing neurosurgery using Browphilium as the cleaner. It was in swab. I have that clip, so I will send it to you. They used this Browphilium, this leaf here, was one of the ones they were using for swab. And they had 96% success rate.
Professor Ayodilaja is a member board of trustee of the Afe Babalola University. He speaks on the ingenuity of the school and the roles played by the founder in developing solutions for the benefit of the public.
It's always challenging to me at 96. That man is still thinking about what will be the solution. You will always see that this is true altruism. It's not because of what you will get. Again, at the Afe Babalola, even though you are not here, we are here. We are so grateful. Who are those legally empowered people to show that what we have done in Harvard is indeed what works. And that's what brought us to the DG of NIMA, after the NAFDA DG also visited us in Harvard.
I present this to you for award transmission to Afe Babalola, now Professor Afe Babalola.
As of November 2022, more than 12 million cases of COVID-19 and about 257,000 deaths were recorded, while Nigeria had about 3,000 deaths. The severity of the disease might have reduced, but till date, no other preparation has been approved for the management of COVID-19. And now with this solution, Abuad is set to blaze the trail. Dari Idu, Channels Television News.
To legal matters, the Magistrate Court sitting in Asaba Delta State has remanded the policeman Ubi Abri at the Ogwashuku Correctional Center for allegedly killing a young man, Onyeka Ibe, on the 5th of April along Asaba Ubolu Road. Granting an ex parte motion to remand the suspect till May the 8th, the Chief Magistrate Carl Moteke said the court lacks jurisdiction to hear the case and as such has transferred the matter to the Directorate of Public Prosecution of the State Ministry of Justice. The counsel to the Delta State Police Command, Gillian Owegbe, spoke to journalists after court proceedings today, while family members and friends of the victim waited anxiously within the court premises. It does not appear that the last has been heard concerning yesterday's judgment, which reinstated Senator Ifeanyi Ararume on the board of the NNPC Limited. This time, the president is responding to the verdict, explaining in a statement by his spokesperson, Mr. Femi Adesina, that he has taken due notice of a judgment by the Federal High Court Abuja, restoring Senator Ararume as a non-executive chairman of an NNPCL. He goes on to say that while the office of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice is yet to receive a formal copy of the ruling, President Muhammadu Buhari affirms that due judicial process will be followed, and an NNPCL has already taken steps to go on appeal. Meanwhile, President Buhari has returned to Abuja after his 8-day official visit to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And that's all from Abuja. Back to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Linda. We continue health matters now. Multinational pharmaceutical and biotechnology company Pfizer is reinforcing its long-standing commitment to creating awareness about hemophilia, a rare bleeding disorder, while driving home the need for innovation in access to treatments. Pfizer says its goal is to make sure that patients living with hemophilia are seen, heard, and never forgotten, as it continues to work tirelessly to find breakthrough solutions and therapeutic options to change their lives. The company is making this commitment in commemoration of this year's World Hemophilia Day, with a roundtable to highlight the issues. Some of those who spoke at the event emphasized Pfizer's commitment to equity and continued investment in hemophilia, as evident in its more than 30 years' experience in developing therapies for hematological disorders. According to them, people with hemophilia are at risk for excessive and recurrent bleeding from modest injuries, which have the potential to be life-threatening. Every day, staff at Pfizer work across developed and emerging markets to advance wellness, prevention, treatments, and cures that challenge the most feared diseases of our time. The company says this is consistent with its responsibility as one of the world's premier innovative biopharmaceutical companies, and collaborates with healthcare providers, governments, and local communities to support and expand access to reliable, affordable healthcare around the world for more than 150 years. As part of the efforts to ensure better service delivery by the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, the interventionist agency is building the capacity building of its management staff on policy implementation. To drive this, the NDDC has held training programs focused on policy process and security management. According to the managing director of the NDDC, a periodic update along this line will ultimately lead to the realization of the Commission's mandate of developing the oil-rich region.
This two-day capacity building training on policy processes and security management is for directors and management level staff of the Niger Delta Development Commission to enhance service delivery in line with laid down policies by the agency's governing board. The training, which is taking place in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, is to allow the agency expand the knowledge of those driving the development processes in the region. Some of the steps needed for this are highlighted by the Managing Director of the agency, represented by the Executive Director, Finance and Administration.
Everything about an organization must be on daily knowledge. It is based on all these principles, all this analysis that we can say why we are here today. It's the bedrock of strengthening the base, the knowledge base of NDDC.
A lot is riding on getting this training right, as the facilitator harps on the need to work out appropriate implementation strategies for the articulated policies of the NDDC.
Policy making is difficult and dynamic, requiring constant eyes on the ball. The NDDC has enormous tasks to satisfy all the communities, and this requires robust policy making process to accomplish this mission. It is both scientific, it is arts.
For some participants, the training aligns with their renewed resolve to contribute to the improvement of the welfare of the Niger Delta people.
So I believe this training is key. It's going to arm us with the tools to be able to analyze the policies that have been set up by the Commission and how we can fit in to implement those policies.
This training is so key, especially for those of us staff of the NDDC, in establishing the issues of the Niger Delta region and in achieving the mandate of the NDDC.
Many of the issues being thrashed out here center on policy making, policy processes, implementation strategies, as well as monitoring and evaluation.
The Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board says Nigeria now boasts of having 54% of the capacity needed in its oil and gas sector due to the strategies it has deployed over the past few years to enhance and promote local content in the country. Speaking at a World Press Conference to announce the 2023 Nigerian Oil and Gas Opportunity Fair, the Executive Secretary of the Board, Mr. Simbi Wabote, says the conference will further increase the capacity of players in the sector.
The improvement of Nigeria's oil and gas sector is directly linked to the level of capacity built by the manpower in the sector, and the primary agency of government responsible for achieving same has put together a platform for networking and stimulating investment in Nigeria.
Create a platform where Nigerian oil and gas industry will showcase opportunities for the benefit of Nigerian players, such that they will know what's coming ahead, and then they can prepare for it adequately. From experience, NOGOV had been very successful, quite successful, and it's had far-reaching impact on the participation of Nigerian businessmen in the oil and gas industry. On top of this, we also produce a compendium of opportunities, which we also distribute to the industry.
The Executive Secretary of the Board, Mr. Simbi Wabote, also speaks on the impact of the activities of the board.
I talked about the LNG. If you want to extrapolate the value that 50% is, I think the LNG project is a total of $5 billion end to end. 50% of that is being handled in country and by Nigerians. That's a significant leap. And this only happened because we provided a lot of Nigerians the opportunity, because LNG itself came to that NOGOV, did a breakdown of the various activities connected with the project, which of course enabled people to position themselves. Our goal is to use NOGOV as a platform to promote these objectives and drive growth and development across the Nigerian oil and gas value chain. We're excited to engage with key stakeholders, foster the development of local content, and strategize on capacity building initiatives that will benefit the industry and the broader economy. In a place like Nogov, it's also an opportunity where companies will also talk about technology and what they are expecting from industry players, which will enable our people to prepare themselves. That's the beauty of Nogov.
This year's conference, which holds in Bayelsa State, is set to showcase opportunities in the industry, like the Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas Train 7, so that players in the industry can position themselves to tap into it.
Central Bank of Nigeria says currency in circulation has jumped. Well, Ann Wado is around to tell us more in business news. Indeed, Millicent, thank you. Well, the Central Bank of Nigeria actually says the currency in circulation in the country has jumped by 71% in just 1 month to hit 1.6 trillion naira in the month of March. According to the CBN, the currency in circulation in the country had decreased to 982.09 billion naira as of February this year, from 3.29 trillion naira at the end of October last year, following the naira redesign policy. Also, data obtained from the CBN reveals that about 2.3 trillion naira had been mopped up from circulation during the period under review. The Debt Management Office, the DMO, has reacted to some media reports that Nigeria has defaulted on its loan payments to China, which stands at 41.21 billion naira. In a statement, the DMO strongly refutes this claim, saying that the federal government has not defaulted on any of its debt service obligations. The DMO has asked the public to disregard the false publication, as the government is committed to fulfilling its debt obligations in a responsible and timely manner. In December 2021, the DMO announced that Nigeria's debts to China stood at $4.1 billion as of September 2021. And Ghana's inflation has dipped. It's expected, the United Kingdom's inflation has dipped less than expected in the month of March, staying in double figures as households are coming under pressure from soaring food and drink prices. Well, data coming from the Office for National Statistics shows consumer price index fell to 10.1% last month, making it the highest in Europe. Meanwhile, for economists, they have forecast a larger decline in the annual inflation rate to 9.8%. This latest data is making it almost certain the Bank of England will increase interest rates next month from 4.25% to 4.5%. Let's head to the equities market right here in Nigeria. It sustained yesterday's positive performance. The all-share index climbed higher by 0.08%. Inijon Mekwa has the details.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, Transcorp is still in the news. Today, it traded 84 million in volume, valued at 186 million. Not as much as yesterday. I guess that's one of the reasons why we see that volume is in the red today at 1.27 billion. Value also dropped. Some money went out. 3.97 billion in value, and of course the deals also went from about 4,000 to 3,500. Let's look at the sectors now. The good thing about today is that the most liquid counter has recovered because Fidelity gained 11 kobo, Zenith also gained 5 kobo, UBA also gained 5 kobo. So they're banking up 0.77%. Unfortunately, oil and gas has lost the green it had the day before to settle in the red at 1.33%. Consumer goods looking a bit good there, 0.08%, and that's because of PZ getting 3 kobo as well as international breweries. What this has done to the all-share index is a green. Not very good, but it's a green anyway. So you see the all-share is at 0.08%. Still have the 51,000 there. We haven't crossed that yet. Whether we've crossed it or not, the bull is still holding the floor at the NGX. Okay, 2 more days, and we hope that the bull will retain that space until Friday. That's the Stock Market Report. I'm Inijon Mekwa. It's back to you.
And that's it on Business News for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Ann Mwawadu. Millicent will be back with the rest of the news at 10. Thanks, Anne. And 39 out of 59 hospitals in Khartoum and nearby states are out of service, highlighting the worsening humanitarian situation in the country. That's according to the Central Committee of Sudanese Doctors, which added in a statement on Facebook that only 20 hospitals are fully or partially operational. 9 hospitals were bombed, 16 hospitals subjected to forced evacuation. Fighting is continuing in Khartoum and other parts of Sudan as the army and paramilitary force trade blame for violating a 24-hour humanitarian truce that was due to take effect Tuesday evening. Simon Pusey has more on this and other international stories and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Fox News has settled a defamation lawsuit from the voting machine company Dominion over its reporting of the 2020 presidential election. In a last-minute settlement before trial, the network agreed to pay $787.5 million, about half of the $1.6 billion initially sought by Dominion. Dominion argued its business was harmed by Fox News spreading false claims that the 2020 election vote had been rigged against Donald Trump. The deal spares Fox executives such as Rupert Murdoch from having to testify.
The truth matters. Lies have consequences. Over 2 years ago, a torrent of lies swept Dominion and election officials across America into an alternative universe of conspiracy theories, causing grievous harm to Dominion and the country.
They might have ended up paying as much as they paid today, and also have been, in some sense, dragged proverbially through the mud even further from all of the media attention to what would take place at trial.
Airstrikes and explosions have hammered Sudan's capital after the failure of a US-brokered ceasefire between the army and paramilitary forces. Mile-long plumes of black smoke dominate the skyline in the Sudanese capital amid street fighting, forcing residents to stay hunkered down and prompting Japan to prepare to evacuate its citizens. Continuous bombardments and loud blasts could be heard in central Khartoum, in the area around the Defence Ministry compound and the airport, which has been fiercely contested and put out of action since fighting erupted at the weekend. Large numbers of residents are fleeing Khartoum as fighting continues for a 5th day. 12 people have been detained by police for questioning after a hospital fire in Beijing killed at least 29, most of them patients. Eyewitness footage shows people escaping out of windows onto air conditioning units to try and escape the fire. The blaze, among the deadliest in recent years, broke out at Changfeng Hospital, where angry relatives rushed to, only learning of the fire from local news reports. Those who were rescued have been shifted to other hospitals for treatment. Officials say a preliminary investigation showed that sparks generated during renovation works had ignited paint stored on site. A parking garage has collapsed in New York City, killing at least 1 worker and injuring 5 others. Pictures showed rows of high-end Range Rovers and Jeeps on top of each other. All 6 people were inside the 4-story building when it collapsed. It's located near the New York Stock Exchange and Pace University in Lower Manhattan. Eyewitnesses said the collapse was sudden and without warning. Further details have been released ahead of King Charles III's coronation in a little over 2 weeks' time. Fragments said to be from the cross on which Jesus was crucified will be included in a newly made Cross of Wales used at the head of the coronation procession in Westminster Abbey. The relics of what is known as the True Cross were given to King Charles by Pope Francis as a coronation gift. For the most part, Charles will sit in the coronation chair, which was commissioned for Edward I.
There's a kind of desire to be kind of awed, I think. To almost feel that there's something magical is happening, and I think that taps into something that's quite kind of shared actually in many people, whether you're in whatever country and whatever religion you are. That's an unusual thing.
And mechanical engineers at the robotics laboratory of the University of California have developed a full-sized humanoid robot with first-of-its-kind technology. Standing at 4 feet 8 inches tall and weighing 85 pounds, Artemis is capable of walking on rough and unstable surfaces with a particular focus on bipedal locomotion. The robot can even play soccer.
There you go. Go!
Dennis Hong, the Professor of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering, says the team are planning to have Artemis ready to unveil its full soccer capabilities at the Robo Cup in France in July.
There you go. Good job.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Well done, Simon. Time to talk sports. One of the floodlight poles at the National Stadium, Surulere, Lagos, collapsed this morning after a heavy rain in the city. According to reports, no injuries nor casualties were recorded, as there was no vehicular nor human traffic at the time of the incident. The Minister of Youth and Sports, Sunday Dare, had visited the stadium for an inspection 2 weeks ago to assess the level of work. The National Stadium in Lagos has been an iconic symbol of Nigeria's sporting achievements since its opening in 1972, having hosted the 1973 All-Africa Games, the 1980 and 2000 African Cup of Nations. Well, let's turn to the UEFA Champions League now, where Manchester City are through to the semi-finals, beating Bayern Munich 4-1 on aggregates. Now, City took a 3-goal advantage into the second leg and went in front courtesy of a goal from Erling Haaland before Bayern pulled one back for a 1-1 draw. On the other game, Inter Milan also reached the semis with a 5-3 aggregate win over Benfica, having won the first leg 2-0. The Italian side surrendered a 3-1 lead as Benfica scored 2 late goals for a 3-3 draw. Now, City will now face Real Madrid in the semis, while Inter Milan have a date with AC Milan for a place in the finals. Away from the Champions League, the lineup for the Nigeria Women Football League Premiership Super 6 is complete. Lagos-based team FC Robo secured the last spot after thrashing Confluence Queens 4-0 this evening at the legacy pitch of the National Stadium, joining Delta Queens, Bayelsa Queens, Rivers Angels, Confluence Queens and Edo Queens. In other results, Bayelsa Queens spanked Niger Ratels 3-0. Delta Queens maintained the unbeaten run with a 1-0 draw against Rivers Angels, while Heartland Queens edged Royal Queens 1-0. In Group B, Nasarawa Amazons' 5-0 win over Adamawa Queens was not enough for the Super 6 spots, while the match between Abia Angels and Edo Queens was suspended in the 30th minute due to heavy rain in Umuahia. And that does it for us here in the world of sports. I am Kelly Egiga. It's back to Millicent.
Thanks, Kelly. And the main news again. The federal government today said it's only INEC that has the responsibility to deal with the electoral infractions perpetrated during the Adamawa governorship election. Said the suspended resident electoral commissioner Hudu Ari is an employee of the electoral umpire. Also today, Governor Amadu Fintiri of Adamawa State has vowed to ensure the prosecution of the suspended resident electoral commissioner Hudu Ari for his actions during the state governorship election. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.